foundation. In the previous discussions, we've talked about the foundation of this organization.
Oh, have we lost her? Then Christine? Maureen? Hello?
The network seems to be a little bit.
Oh, so we lost her. It's okay.
We lost her.
She's going to join in again. Maureen, are you there?
Yes, please, I'm here.
Do you have a copy of her presentation?
Not yet.
Oh, okay. I thought you had it and you just flash it over.
Not really.
So we can discuss as we wait for her to come back. The topic was very, very open and very clear, the ROTARY Foundation. We have some Rotarians on board here. We can have a discussion as we wait for her to come back. Not to let the platform keep silent.
So who is taking on the discussion? Hello? Network. Do you hear me, Tim?
Yes, Rotarian Fiona, you're loud and clear.
Yeah, like they say, some of us are not yet Rotarians. So for the Rotarians, I think you can, somebody was talking about the foundation. Me, I'm just an oncoming, onboarding. So I think was it Rotarian Joseph who was saying we continue the discussion? Who could kindly lead us into that?
We have some Rotarians on board, I'm very sure. And Maureen, who is another Rotarian on board here? Maureen, are you there?
Maureen is muted. If you're talking, Maureen, you're on mute.
Yes, please, I'm here.
So being asked about who's the Rotarian, or anybody here can come up off mute, please. Are we all on boarding Rotarians?
I'm thinking they are still thinking a bit what they are going to talk about.
Yeah, it needs some preparation.
No. You just talk the basics, you know. because we are here to learn, so you don't need to be too structured. Okay, maybe I can say something. When we talk of the Rotary Foundation, we basically want to be able to do good in the world. The Rotary Foundation, as Christine was explaining, it's like the bank of Rotary, in short, where we put in our monies as Rotarians, such that we're able to see solutions to challenges in our communities and take action to bring those ideas to life, bring those challenges, to give solutions to those challenges. And it's one of the things that we find as one of the benefits of being Rotarians, and that is having access to that fund to be able to do good in the world. This is helps us at the end of the day also to do meaningful change, both in our communities and also in the world. Now, the Rotary Foundation, as a Rotarians Bank, is carefully overseen by your fellow Rotarians or our fellow Rotarians, the trustees of Rotary Foundation. And one of the things they ensure is that your donations are invested very well and spent wisely, so they will do good in the world. So whatever amount of money you contribute, especially if as long as it goes to the Rotary Foundation, it will be invested 3 years, comes back, then you're able to receive that money in the form of district designated funds, as we shall see later on, and also the grants with Rotary International. So the generosity of our members or the Rotarians and the good work that Rotary does usually doesn't go unrecognized. Because of this, of course, a number of organizations have been able to rate us in terms of our performance as Rotary. For example, people like the Charity Navigator, I'm very sure you've heard of it, is a leading evaluator of non-profits in the US, has rated Rotary International or the Rotary Foundation as #1 out of the best charities everyone has ever heard of. So you can see that what we are looking at this morning is quite an interesting and a lovely topic of discussion. Of course, out there are over 395.1 million Rotarians who have been able to raise money. And that's the money they have been able to raise to make sure that they actually do good in the world. They also have other organizations like the CNBC, I also named us as Rotarians and Rotary Foundation as one of the top charities changing the world. So quite a number of things, of course, have happened, and we've been able to do the help in our world. But most importantly, we're able to change the world. Now, when we talk of the Rotary Foundation, we look at our annual, our foundation's annual fund, which is the source of funding for local and international grant projects. And contribution to our annual fund help make our humanitarian impact very, very much possible. When you give to the annual fund, as we are saying, you help women, children, to expand their small businesses, to go and look at, of course, an economic empowerment, to look at disease and prevention, and so many other areas of focus. So when we give that money to the annual fund, that means you're helping those underprivileged people to be able to come out of their unworthy conditions in terms of basic lives. So giving to the annual fund basically supports Rotarian-driven projects like those that are created at the local level, which are developed to meet the needs of the community and fostered through international fellowship. And that happens through a single gift. Even then, you can still help women, children, the youth, and their families to make sure that they have a better living in the future. Now, the Rotary Foundation looks at basically 7 areas of focus. Our foundation is dedicated to about 7 areas of focus. I'll name them, not in a specific order, but I'll try to name them. One of them is peace building and conflict resolution, disease prevention and treatment, the water sanitation and hygiene, basic education and literacy. We have maternal and child health, which our district has been focusing on so much this year. And in the next Rotary year, we are going to be focusing so much on basic education and literacy. There's community economic development, but also there is also the environment. So there are basically 7 areas of focus that we look at here. Is Chair back?
Yes, she is.
Hey, okay. Madam
Sorry,
Chair, can I hand
friends.
over to you?
Yeah, sorry, I don't know where you lost me.
When we were just starting the first slide.
Oh my God. I'm so sorry. I think the internet disappeared and I didn't realize that I was off. So now I've logged onto my phone. Just give me a minute so that I can log on both, but I'm going to take my volume off on one.
Perfect, no worries.
Okay. So I'll start again. Oh dear. Okay, so I'm going to move a little faster now because I want to make sure that I'm cognizant of time. Sorry, apologies, friends. I didn't realize until Maureen called me actually. And thank you, Maureen, Maureen, for letting me know. So you lost me on the first slide when I just started talking about the foundation. Okay, but I think at least you got me. At least you got everything about the Rotary Foundation. Okay, so is this where you lost me, Joseph?
Yes, around there.
Okay, so the Rotary Foundation, again, remember, it's interesting, friends, that the people in Rotary in the previous, the people who started Rotary were quite ambitious, and I think they were really, dreamers. This year we have our motto as Imagine Rotary, and you'll know that in the first fellowships, we talked about how Rotary started. This was a dream of one man. It started 4 people, and this prestigious organization is what, when you look at its history, its humble history, it's just that some certain people were really service oriented but thinking big. So even Arch Clamp, as a president of Rotary then, who was actually at a convention, just proposed and said, we need an endowment fund that is going to secure the work we are doing, that is going to help us create impact in the world. And it is this that started the foundation. And this started with an initial contribution of $26. The convention then said, and he did, spearhead this and started off with the contributions of $26.5 from everyone. Today, the foundation is really supporting a lot of the work that we are doing as Rotary. I did indicate that the foundation is the financing body of Rotary International, and it's administered differently, and we shall come to that. But after 1917, later in 1928, another convention agreed that we need to formally name this endowment fund as the Rotary Foundation officially. And this is where it all began. From 1917, when Arch Clamp, the president Arch Clamp proposed that we need to form an endowment fund, to 1928, where everyone at a convention, also another convention, because Rotary meets every year as a global organization. And this is, where decisions were approved before it grew that we have a council of legislation that needs to sit before the convention actually happens to agree on certain new proposals and certain new directions. But in 1928, the Rotary Foundation was formally named, birthed in 1917 through an endowment fund proposal to 1928, when everyone said we need to name this as the fund. And this is where the history of the foundation starts and goes on. And I'm not going to go into the detail of everything, but some key important areas in the growth. In 1979, Rotary began its first work in polio. Now, polio, as we will see shortly later, polio eradication is Rotary's philanthropic priority. It's the top priority. That's the first area of service that we did, that we needed to, Rotary did globally. Say we must join governments to fight polio and save humanity. Okay? And this started in the Philippines, where there was a project that was really alleviating poverty, but disease was one of them. Later, Rotary fully launched from one country to now a global program of what we call Polio Plus program, which we do today. I was a Rotary actor in my early days in the university, and for every fellowship, I would contribute 1,000 shillings. And for many, many, many years, Rotarians always contributed 1,000 shillings to polio. It's amazing that we have been part of this journey of eradicating polio in the world. My husband works for WHO, and one day he told me, Kristen, Rotarians you guys do great work because you are the number one contributor to the funds that are used for immunization, for educating polio, but also other immunizable diseases because of your Polio Plus fund. I felt proud. I was like, wow. I remembered my 1,000 shillings that I was contributing every week. And in that moment, I was so proud that little as it was contributing to greater, it was a greater cause of saving humanity, that it was having impact. Today, many will say, we don't have polio in the world. Why are we still talking about polio? We now talk about Polio Plus, and this is referring to other immunizable diseases. So we know that, some of these diseases ravage our third world more than the Western world. So our effort continues to ensure that we are saving humanity, and especially the children. So for me, I'm very proud of polio, my efforts and the contributions I've made in polio, and we continue to contribute to polio as Rotarians. But we'll talk about, the polio, eradication of polio as one of the other programs. But let's continue understanding the foundation, how it develops. Today, we see that now Rotary Foundation is encouraging Rotarians to think about scalable, sustainable programs. And again, as we talk about the foundation, we are going to learn, what does this mean? Initially, the foundation was, as in the early days, it sealed, the grants that clubs would get between 15 to 30. Today, it's beyond 100,000. In fact, when you put in a grant of $15,000, they've actually capped the minimum clubs can apply for, because we've grown. So the foundation started as a proposal. It started as a proposal to start an endowment fund. Today, it's the body that is financing Rotary activities. So how is it structured? And again, I told you last week we talked about how Rotary International is structured when we are implementing our activities. Now, how is this financing arm structured? So the foundation is a non-profit structure organization. It is a structure of Rotary International, a non-profit, and exclusively intended for financing work that is doing good in the world. It is governed by a board of trustees. The Rotary International president is not the one who leads it. A selected team, and this team is selected by an incoming president. They serve a tenure of about 4 years. So every year, because we have a president, and then we have a president-elect, and then we have a president nominee, I told you, Rotary has a very streamlined succession planning agenda that you will know your leaders 3 years in advance. But before a leader takes office, they appoint the people who are going to lead the trustees for the next 4 years. And it's not for every president-elect, because if people are still there, some are leaving while others are coming on. So the president-elect appoints where the gaps fall. The foundation is solely supported by volunteer contribution from Rotary members, friends of the foundation, and anyone who shares our vision. Remember, it was started as a proposal by a Rotarian that we need an endowment fund. In 1928, it was formally constituted as a foundation, the Rotary Foundation. So its work, its finances still come from volunteer contributions and friends of Rotary, as we'll learn in subsequent or later. Okay, this is very, very important. It's a non-profit, solely supported by volunteer contributions. This is amazing. Later, when we talk about the focus areas and the great work we do, and how this work is done, you'll be amazed that if we join hands as great men and women in this world, nothing is impossible. The foundation supports all the work we do in Rotary. I've talked about the Polio Plus Fund. We'll talk about the Rotary grants, where we do work in our 7 focus areas, okay, that you all have the areas of focus that I sent to you, and then also the Peace Fellowships. Any work that you will hear about Rotary doing is solely funded by Rotary contributions and by those who love the work we do. At club level, you start off by financing a small community project. You collect monies and say, let's donate books to a school in any of the areas that you've identified. Let's go and do a community service. That will be your club contributions. But should you expand that to create more impact, to say, let's provide equipment to this health facility, okay, then you will move beyond just your small contributions and join hands with other Rotarians in the world, in the country, but also in the world, through the Rotary Foundation to do a bigger and more impactful project. And that's how it works. So for us who want to do bigger projects, then we apply to the Rotary Foundation for the funds that we've contributed there. Those funds come back to us to be able to do impactful project. One of the things that we always start with the 4-way test, and I told you we are not perfect, but we try to live by the values that we've set. And therefore the foundation is also very strict. The stewardship of these funds are with the highest integrity, and the people who provide this stewardship and manage, the trustees, are also Rotarians. In about 9, let me be conservative years, consecutively, Rotary Foundation has been scored by the Charity Navigator as the most the charity that has the highest integrity in terms of, financial stewardship. And we are so proud of that. We know our funds are secure, rated highly, 100 out of 100, year on year, 9 consecutive months in terms of stewardship. And remember, this is solely a financial arm of the fund of Rotary. So after all that, I just wanted to talk about this. I want you to look at the foundation and I'm just trying to drive the message home. The club, without the support from Rotary International, is nothing. We need the support from Rotary International. These are things we talked about last week. Okay? But we also know that Rotary International too cannot survive without the club. Okay? So Rotary needs clubs. The organization cannot survive without club because the club is the central unit of all the work we do. Work, business, start of Rotary is at club level. But remember, we talked about the fact that Rotary is not a social organization. We are defined by service. So a community is very important to us. The work we do at community levels, the projects we do to improve humanity, to alleviate poverty, are very important to us. We wouldn't be who we are if we didn't have challenges at community level. So community, which is the unit where our work takes place or starts, our service projects, our impact can be visible, is very important to us. And community, you can define community anything else. So for the foundation, okay, the reason why we need the foundation to do projects, to change the world, okay, is that if we do not have the finances to create impact, we're talking about doing good in the world, then we wouldn't be able to be the service-oriented, the action-oriented team of people that we call ourselves. So this Rotary Foundation helps us finance the work we do at community level, to give us the meaning of who we are. We don't get together to have fun, to talk about our lives, to do the routine of the fellowship, and that's all. A club that does that January to December is a social club. We are a service-oriented club. We pay to serve. We contribute to the foundation so that that money comes back so that we can do community development, so that we can change society, so that we can give meaning to people's lives. So the foundation is that engine that finances the work we do. It helps us create impact. And I told you that in 2020, the Rotary Foundation now started focusing, encouraging scalable, large, impactful projects, because we were initially small, and year on year, as this grew and as our work continued to grow, that's how, Rotary also, the foundation continued to evolve. So how is this supported? TRF is the Rotary Foundation. Why do we support the Rotary Foundation? I've talked about Polio Plus. It is still a priority of Rotary to end immunizable diseases. And that's why we call it Polio Plus. We are so proud to be part of the global community that has chased polio in many countries. I think it's now just in either 1 or 2 countries. I need to get my facts correct. Okay. When I sit down as Christine Namayanja, I will tell you that 1,000 shillings I love myself that even when I was a student, walking into these fellowships and a book moved around, polio plus, polio plus, polio plus. Sometimes I would pull. When I was rich, I would put in 2,000, but I would always contribute between 2,000 and 500. But even my 500 was meaningful, polio plus. The other program is the annual funds, the money that Rotary Foundation, that we put in the foundation. What does it do? How does it come back? And what does it do? That is an annual fund programs. And we'll talk about the annual fund programs. And these are programs where we focus on the 7 focus areas and many others. But we'll talk about it on another day. So the first part is to end polio. And we'll see how that polio fund is utilized. The second part is to enable us to do the projects that we do today. I've talked about, community level projects. I've talked about impact at community level, be it in education, be it in maternal health, because we need to continue doing this. We don't want, issues to compile and then say, let's go and handle in a big way. No, we must be addressing issues every day. So that annual funds program helps us to be able to do those programs. And we'll talk about it another day. The last is endowment fund to secure our tomorrow. So this is money that is invested so that even the pot of money that comes back to do good, the money that comes back to do our programs is bigger, is substantial to help us create those impactful projects. So these are the three, kind of areas where the Rotary Foundation let me call them the sub funds of the Rotary Foundation. Okay. So this is where it talks about it, how it is structured. Okay. And the other 3 funds I've talked about. The first is Polio Plus, and we'll talk about Polio Plus again. I just want you to remember we are proud of that journey and will continue to be the journey. Then we have the other area. In the history, you will notice that I talked about Rotary introducing the share fund. And in its structure, that annual program fund is where money is invested and channeled through grants to be able to do our Rotary projects. However, when I give in a certain pot of money, for instance, if I give in $20, I'm just giving the smallest unit, half of that will be taken to a world fund and invested, and half of it will come back to my district. We shall talk about that process later. That's why we have that division. So we want to ensure that we are continuously having funds. Remember, I told you this is financed solely by volunteer contributions. So when that money is put there, this body of trustees ensures that it's either invested so that we can continue to have at least some significant funds for projects. So the money that is invested in the World Fund is to help continue to do projects. Then the endowment fund is to secure the future of Rotary. And we'll talk about how this is also, how the contributions to the endowment fund come in. So I want to talk about polio as the first area of the foundation. I've talked about it already. I can't underscore the importance. I want to underscore the importance of eradicating polio to us. We started 4 decades ago in 1979, and we are still going. For as long as we are still battling immunizable diseases in the world, we will never stop to contribute to polio. And today, when you get into a Rotary meeting, you'll still see people either passing around a book we're encouraging people to fund, to contribute to Polio Plus through probably online contributions, because we know there are still many children dying that can be saved. And so Polio Plus continues. We recognize this day. It even has, we work with governments. So in terms of other programs, but for polio, we ensure that there is also a dedicated day in October where all of us, that is 24th October, we are commemorating ourselves, but also providing immunization services, plus other healthcare services. So Rotary started the fund in 1979, and the effort was to immunize children in one country against polio. But today, it's a worldwide initiative that we've combined efforts with the UN and with many other friends of Rotary to say no child should die yet of these immunizable diseases. Today, this polio fund helps us. As I told you, we have great contributors and partners to government. So we use the polio fund, our contributions from the foundation, the little monies that we contribute at every fellowship. So friends, never stop when you see a book, when you're in a club and they say we need to contribute to the foundation, to Polio Plus. Please don't be selfish and say, I need my 1,000 to buy binyewa. When you forego that 1,000, you will save a child from dying from one of the immunizable diseases. Because our money helps to buy vaccines and also helps in the actual implementation, the camps that are done. It helps in delivering them to the health facilities. It helps in conducting disease surveillances. It helps in increasing awareness, but also to pay for the experts that would otherwise not be affordable to communities that can't afford them. That's a very important cause. You can start amongst yourselves and say, we need to start contributing to the polio fund. It's easy, 500 a day, 500 a week, 1,000, 5,000, it doesn't hurt. You can forego just one bottle of beer to save a life. And that's what we do as Rotarians. And we're so proud of that. But that's where the polio money goes. And we collect that money separately. It's labeled Polio Plus. It cannot be commingled. It has to go to the Rotary Polio Plus Fund so that it can go to the world. But our friends of Rotary have also been generous. The Gates Foundation, for instance, promised that the monies that Rotary collects through polio will be matched 2-to-1. So if I've given my $500, how much does the Gates Foundation, no, not let me say $500, $1. How much does the Gates Foundation bring back? Anyone can unmute and tell us? With a matching of 2-to-1. Hello, am I speaking to myself? Hello? Anyone?
I think they'll bring in $2.
Yeah. Exactly. You can imagine. So this is a friend of the foundation who realized that Rotary is doing great work and let me partner with them to increase the impact, to accelerate the work we do. So when I give in my $1, I'm proud that another person is going to match it. A whole BMGF has said, I will match, top that up. so that we can have more children immunized in the world. So for us at our level, we are proud that we are saving lives. And to date, nearly 19 million people have been saved. They would otherwise maybe be paralyzed because of polio. But we have saved their lives. And those are some of the simple things that we do in Rotary. I've just explained the first part of the Rotary Foundation program or cause. And that is eradication of polio. In the subsequent meeting, we shall look at the other causes, how the annual fund helps us to implement our projects in the 7 focus areas. And please go back to the forum and look at, understand the 7 areas of focus. I will end the discussion today for the interest of time because it's on the hour, and I'll invite 1 or 2 questions. And please let me know if there's anything you haven't understood. Let's use the weekly chat, our WhatsApp chat. Let's ask questions because it's great to understand this organization that you are joining. Thank you, friends. And over to you for any questions, probably for just the next 3 minutes, and then we shall close it at maybe 5 to 10 minutes. So any questions, please?
Christine, can I go?
Yes, please go.
Thank you for the great presentation. Indeed, very, indeed insightful in many ways. I just wanted to know, besides the collection of these resources, whether the foundation has got investments that multiply these funds even for greater impact. Yeah, thanks.
Yes, Eddie, and that is what I talked about, and we shall be learning in the subsequent, in the next discussion. We'll talk about the annual fund and also the endowment fund. And these are the funds, part of, but briefly to respond to you, as part of the annual fund share, I did say that at least 50% of that goes to the World Fund. And this money is invested for 3 years. That means we earn some interest income on these investments that also comes back to support Rotary work. So yes, the money we contribute through the annual fund, and we'll talk about the annual fund next week. Part of it, 50% of it is invested, and 50% comes back to what we call the district designated fund. It's a bit complicated right now, but we'll talk about it and how that is channeled. The other is about the endowment fund, where people give directly to the endowment fund. And this money, as I started off, is the one that secures the future of Rotary. The endowment fund ensures that, Rotary or Rotarians have resources that we shall need to design and implement the sustainable projects even after 1 year. Usually, Rotary funds, the annual grants that we apply for are specifically for 1 year. But now the endowment fund is helping us to ensure that we can implement, 3-year grants. So the principle of the endowment fund is never spent; it stays. If I contribute $250,000 to the endowment fund, it's the interest, the earnings generated on the principal that are directed back annually to the foundation grants that we'll definitely learn next week. Eddie, does that briefly respond to your question?
Yes, very much, Christine. Thank you. That's very clear.
Mm. I didn't want to have so much, because there's a lot, and if you realize, I want to move slowly so that, you fully understand how the Rotary Foundation works, just like we've had that journey with Rotary, and appreciate, so that when people are making contributions, they fully understand how this money is utilized, but how this money comes back to benefit the work we do. Any second question, last question before we close? I know it's already 8 o'clock. Okay, so I take it that we've all had, at least we've learned 1 or 2 things about the Rotary Foundation, that's specifically how it was founded and what it does. And most importantly today is to understand the Polio Plus grant or fund that many of you may have heard or have seen Rotarians talk about, and what it does, how this fund is generated, how the contributions are generated, and how we partner and with others to ensure that we are supporting governments to ensure that immunization services are taking place. Good. So if there's no other question, I would like to invite Maureen. I think you'll give us the final toast so that we can have our other friends learn, and then I will call it a morning. But thank you so much, friends, for listening to me. And just show thumbs up if that you've taken away 1 or 2 as Maureen comes. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Rotary and Christine, for that wonderful presentation, an insightful one. Allow me to make the final toast. We propose to Rotary International.
Rotary the world over. That's how we respond.
Thank you so much.
Okay. So thank you all who have logged in. And next week we shall now be specifically looking at the annual programs fund.
All right.
Have a good day.
Have a good day too.